Welcome to the Lay on Your Bet Sports Betting Show. NBA here on Tuesday. Got 4 games on the slate to choose from, so not a lot to work with today. I've only got a few plays early on right now to talk about with you guys because we still have plenty of injury news. Also coming off a bad Monday, so not in a rush to give more out. And we've got 15 games here on Wednesday to look at before we go on break after Thursday for All-Star Weekend. So I'm going to get into everything I've got here. If that all sounds good, give this video a like. Go ahead and let me know what you've got for today as your best bet. Jump in the comments and give me that. I'll be going over that on the live show, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, as we do every day. So hope to see y'all there. But let's get right into what we've got here for Tuesday. Brutal Monday, minus 5.5 units. So we're down, I'll say, down to 50.8 units on the season. I'll still take that. I'm still very happy with it as we're a little bit more than halfway. We've got some work to do to get to 100. So at this point, the 100 units is a lot more achievable in the playoffs as well. So I'm going to add the playoffs to give us the ability to get to over 100, still shooting for over 80 for the season with about 35 games left or so to play. So quick review of what we did here. You know that the Utah boys are going to come through for you, so we'll keep betting on them until you take their bets from my cold dead fingers. Walker Kessler, Isaiah Collier, just the two guys that we keep coming back to with great success. Steph Curry, 4.5 threes. I think we're going to keep eyeing him as he's going to have a lot more open availability to shoot now that he's got Jimmy Butler out there. That pick and roll with those two guys is pretty lethal. So we got to keep an eye on that, including Jimmy's assists, where he had a nice game diming up yesterday. Julian Strawther, every time that Michael Porter Jr. is out, Julian Strawther steps in with big minutes and big points. So we like him as the sort of backup shooting guy, the catch and shoot guy, I should say, for Denver when Michael Porter Jr. is out, and we'll continue to target him in those situations. Bobby Portis was a massive disappointment to myself and probably everybody in the sports betting world on Monday. Big disappointment there. Kuzma coming in and really taking on a much bigger scoring role, facilitating role, just dominated the touches for everything, both on the starting unit and the second unit, to be honest. Whenever Dame was off court, it was Kyle Kuzma's offense. Not sure what to do with that, but we got to monitor it moving forward. And I don't know that we can just bet on Bobby Portis when Giannis is out anymore with Kyle Kuzma out there. So he's the bulk of the money that we lost last night. Miles Bridges hooked us on the 7.5 boards. Going to keep going back to him. That Charlotte team ended up losing LaMelo and losing by 20. So when LaMelo went out, everything just shot down for Charlotte, and that game was pretty much over against the Nets. So Charlotte gets the nod for the best tanking team of the season right now. They're doing it in creative and awful, annoying ways to bet on. Derek White also hooked us. 13 points, needed a bucket to get there. Couldn't do it. Peyton Pritchard went 1 for 9 from the floor. Love that I added the rebounds because he did get 10 of those. What do you have, like 8 assists? Ended with 5 points, 1 for 9 from deep. Not much I can do about that. I guess leave the points out, but the points were a good look in a game that they ended up pulling away and blowing out Miami. Still couldn't get there with Pritchard without Jaylen Brown or Drew Holiday. Luka, I just thought the assist would be a good play in his first game with the team. Didn't even need to go that long because that game was a blowout. And then we got the late news that he was on a minutes restriction after getting original news that he wasn't on a minutes restriction. So that's the NBA right now. I bet with the news that I had, the news changed after I bet on Luka. So that screwed us. And then LeBron was another hook there, 32 PA on the night for our guy. So rough night with like 4 hooks and Bobby Portis. That's really what it turned into, but it just means we're due, man. Honestly, it just means that with today and tomorrow, and even the one game that we have on Thursday, we got a few more on Thursday. So we've got some opportunities here to get this all back. I'm going to be going live today, as always, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully we'll have a bit more news once we get to that time of day. And we've got understanding of, like, is Miles Turner going to play? And a couple other big questionable tags that we've got here for the day. But let's get into the few looks that I already have. And then I hope to see y'all guys on the live show, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. As always, going to be using Props Madness here. If this is a tool you're not yet familiar with, highly recommend at least jumping in using code LYB for your 7-day free trial. Go ahead and test this thing out, see if you like it, and if it helps you, it saves me a ton of time every day to find the best bets that I'm looking for here. You can also get 25% off your first month if you use that code LYB. So go ahead and test it out if you like, but make sure that if you do sign up, you use code LYB to get that 25% off. I got to move right past this Raptors and 76ers game. We don't know if Joel Embiid's playing. He's the sun around which this whole solar system works, right? So there's no point in betting on this one without knowing about him. We know who's out for Toronto. We're not going to see any RJ Barrett in that game, but and no Pirtle as well, which is huge. But I'm going to go right down to the Knicks and the Pacers, who I don't have a bet on this one yet either because we're waiting on Miles Turner news. But if Miles Turner is out, I'm coming right to Obi Toppin. And unfortunately, I can't show you the Obi Toppin stuff because he doesn't have his props listed yet. But I can tell you that without Miles Turner on the season, Obi Toppin's looking at an increase of about 8 minutes per game. He goes up to about 22, 23 minutes per game, up from about 15. So that jumps up tremendously. The shot attempts go up by about 3. The rebound chances go up by about 3. Everything goes up because he is a very good backup big for them to come in and help out as far as a really athletic power forward goes, right? It's a great matchup for him versus this Knicks team too. If I'll just use Pascal to scroll down here to look at the play type analysis and all the stuff here for how the Knicks defend. And it's exactly what Obi does is where they're worst, right? Transition, they're 17th. Pick and roll man is another thing he's going to do a lot. They're third worst, limiting points to really the pick and roll play in general. Whether you're the ball handler or the roll man in the pick and roll, you're going to do well against the Knicks, who also right down here, you can see their opponent defense, not a good paint defense. And that's where Obi should dominate, is either in the corners where they're giving up. They're in the bottom 10 are the Knicks, limiting corner threes. They're also in the bottom 10, limiting points inside the paint and specifically inside the restricted area within 5 feet of the basket. That's where Obi's going to live, attacking the bucket, getting threes up as well. You can see a couple guys here in terms of the recent success for guys that are similar players to Obi Toppin, Jaren Jackson Jr., DeAndre Hunter, even guys like Kelly Oubre, right? Like there's a lot of guys who play really above the rim, but are also able to shoot the three that have had a ton of success against the Knicks. So I'm going to be going to Obi Toppin. I am going to bet him up to 16.5 points, rebounds, and assists. That's going to be the bet for Obi once we get it. That's going to be talked about in a live show for today for sure. But as soon as we see Miles Turner out, I'm attacking Obi Toppin over on his props. This Bulls and Pistons game, I actually feel pretty good betting on the Pistons in this one. I believe they're up to about 5.5, but I would be taking that spread. The bet that I'm eyeing here in this one is going to be on the Detroit side. I really like the idea of getting in on the Ausar Thompson sweepstakes here. But now I will say the PRA is what I'm looking at for him. This is up to 19.5, and I don't know if this is going to stay there or not. The things that have gone up for him, the rebounds up at 5.5 for really bad odds here, but this seems like a really good bet on the boards. Once again, we've been attacking that, and I'm okay to actually add the dimes. He's been up to about 5.5 potential assists per game in this green right here, where you see him getting over in the last 5. He's got the potential assists to get 3. Like, I'm happy to take him at 5.5, 6 potential assists that he's averaging. With that knowledge, taking him to get 3 dimes for plus money is a good look. So I like adding all of it together because I think he's going to be doing all of it against a Chicago defense that's terrible. We know that. Look, you can see they're dead last, limiting points right next to the rim. 72% of Ausar Thompson's shots are coming at the rim, not even out in the paint extended. It's next to the rim, dunks and layups, tip-ins, putbacks, that type of stuff, right? And that's how you beat the Bulls. You get out into transition, you really just cut to the basket and get the offensive rebounds as well. You can see they're 6th worst limiting putbacks, and everything that he wants to do as an athlete in transition is going to be available against a really, really bad Chicago defense. There's no other way to say it. On the season, their defensive rating is down to 27th. So 4th worst defense overall, still playing at one of the fastest paces in the league, 3rd fastest for Chicago. So there's going to be some possessions, a lot of them in this game. And also Thompson's a great option here to go over, playing off of Cade Cunningham and company. Last look I have is a lean for you on Jaren Jackson Jr. I really like this matchup for him. You can see here, if you look at head-to-head, he did really well in their last matchup, putting 38 points up on the Phoenix Suns. Took 24 shots, was playing without Ja Morant, Santi Aldama, Gigi Jackson, who's also coming around playing really well. So we got to take that with a grain of salt, but we can still get him at 21.5 in one book, up to 22.5 in a couple other places. This is probably worth hitting pretty soon for Triple J here. The thing with and without Ja, not that big of a difference, right? On the season, when he plays with Ja Morant, he's looking at 23 points per game. When he plays without Ja Morant, he's looking at about 24.5 points per game. But it's still a very close number here. He's only taking one more shot per game when Ja sits. So he's still getting a good amount of usage with Ja Morant on the floor. And this really comes down to the front court for this Phoenix Suns team, which is putrid, right? I mean, we know that they've done a little bit better right next to the rim, but in the paint in general, they're a bottom 10 defense. And now we're talking about Nick Richards being their primary paint defender. not going to work, right? I mean, we are going to see a bit of Igodoro and probably some as well with Mason Plumlee here. But Nick Richards still been getting what, like 25, 30 minutes or so. Yeah, anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes in each game, splitting that time with Mason Plumlee. Two bad rim protectors, right? And Triple J has done an incredible job this season getting to the rim, taking, 64% of his shots in the paint, as opposed to about 25% out on the three-point line, which is what you want to see. You want this dude to be driving to the rim and going aggressively to the hoop. Now, he's still taking a ton off the spot up, but you can see the transition is huge for him. He's cutting to the basket as well, and he's getting putbacks. And that's what we care about. He's not necessarily going to try to post up a guy like Nick Richards. You want to leave the driving lanes open for John Morant and company to kind of get in there and then drive and kick. But that's where Jaren Jackson's going to be the best, is with those open lanes for him as well, to drive to the lane, attack the rim, and take on a really, really bad rim defender in Nick Richards. So going to see what happens to this. It's going up a little bit, 22.5. We might be able to wait for the right moment to get 21.5 for Jaren Jackson Jr. So we're going to be coming back to him either before the live show or directly on it to go over this prop again. All right, a little bit of a shorter one today with only 4 games on the slate. Going to have a massive episode here for Wednesday as I'm getting going on these props for the 15 games on Wednesday as soon as they come out, probably right after the live show, to be honest. But either way, hope to see y'all on the show, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Definitely make sure to subscribe to the page if you have not yet done so you don't miss any of these lives. And until I see you next, happy betting.